Okay, yes. We're back for part two. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure I could go live. So let me see. It says I'm live. Can I watch my own live? Is that a thing? You're on live. I feel like the little boy. I could wipe my own ears. Okay. Now let's see. This is part two, right? So we're going to get into part two. Now, but right before we jump into part two, I'm finna show you the picture, these pictures, right? And the motivation behind these pictures, right? So again, this picture, right, comes from old biblical books, right? Like that predate your Bible, right? We're talking about like maybe Arabic biblical books, right? Like during Sophia, right? Maybe. I don't know. I just know like these are super old, right? And the farther you go back biblically, the farther you will see nothing but Black folks painted within the biblical text before they started whitewashing the text and whitewashing the pictures, right? And also before they got rid of the feminine, right? Before it was all about you Jesus, right? The woman sat at the head of the table. Okay. So these pictures are from then, but this picture is a little bit more recent, right? So right here we're talking about 1909, right? And as you can see, it says the near blood kin of a feeble-minded woman sterilized by the state of California. So this is the litmus test, right? So let's stretch this out. Now, what the litmus test did was it basically standardized the eugenics program. It initialized it. It is the first one, right? It did not start in Germany with Hitler and the Nazis. It started in America, and California perfected it. Okay, and so this is a diagram that comes from the program and the perfecting of that program. And this is also the same diagram that Hitler and all his homeboys and, many of the likes of him that don't get such a big shout out in history would have this picture up in their meetings, like they were hanging up a damn flag. They would show this damn diagram. Okay. And so when I saw this, and I already had this picture on hand, it just like it made me think of ancestry.com, right? And I was like, damn, I wonder, can I sit on top of it, right? As a reference to the Holy Grail, right? The Ark of the Covenant that they would rather call the feeble minded woman her blood kin, right? And the sterilization that took place, right? The ridding of the original people, right? So I know and excuse my language, the truth could never be a diss, right? Okay, so let's just start there. I know the white Jews love to think it was all about them, right? Hitler's after us. Look at the barcode on my arm. Okay, well, honey, no. Mm-mm. Right, so let's get into part two. So this is just the overlapping of the two diagrams together, right? Okay, so let's talk about it. Now, in Germany's extermination program for Black Africans, A Template for the Holocaust by Edwin Black. The irony of his name being Black. Okay. If that's his real name. Okay, so decades before the Nazi turn to the Jews, German colonists in Southwest Africa, now Namibia, dehumanized, built death camps for, and slaughtered tens of thousands of tribes people in a systematic genocide. Right? And here Edwin Black reveals the full horrors of an eerie and odious precursor of the Shoah and its legacy in the US. Right? Because yes, they came through America and did the same things, right? As they just called them tribesmen. Where else did you find tribesmen that look like this? America, honey. Okay. And you can see they were starving them to death in the camps. They had the nerve to take a picture of it. I'm talking about like they done starved my auntie's breast away. That is wild. That is wild. Okay, so in recent years, some in the African American community have expressed a discontent for Holocaust topics, seeing the genocide of Jews as someone else's nightmare. After all, African Americans are still struggling to achieve general recognition of the barbarity of the Middle Passage, the inhumanity of slavery, the oppression of Jim Crow, and the battle for modern civil rights. For many in the community, the murder of 6 million Jews and millions of other Europeans happened to other minorities in a faraway place where they had no involvement, right? Which is not the case. However, a deeper look shows that proto-Nazi ideology before the Third Reich, the wide net of Nazi-era policy, and Hitler's post-war legacy deeply impacted Africans, Afro-Germans, and African Americans throughout the 20th century. And it dates prior to that as well, but we're going to go over it. We're just going to read the article. America's Black community has a mighty stake in this topic. Understanding the German Reich and the Holocaust is important for Blacks just as it is other communities, including Roma, Eastern Europeans, people with disabilities, the gay community, Jehovah's Witnesses, and many other groups in addition to Jews. The dots are well known to many scholars, but are rarely connected to form a distinct historical nexus for either the Holocaust or the African American communities. This is understandable. The saga behind these connections started decades before the Third Reich came into existence, in a savage episode on another continent that targeted a completely different racial and ethnic group for death and destruction. But the horrors visited on another defenseless group endured and became a template for the final solution. Students of the Holocaust are accustomed to looking backward long before the Third Reich and long after the demise of the Nazi war machine. African Americans should do the same. Okay, Germany comes to Africa. Let's talk about it. It is settled everyday history that Nazi Germany aggressed against its neighbors in part because of a twisted concept known as Lebensraum. Okay, that is the self-declared mandate to achieve living space for an overcrowded Germany. Okay, so the colonists were colonizing. Oh, they wanted to take over. They needed more space, so they came for your space and used a template for the Holocaust to do it, right? They used eugenics to do it. Lock your ass up, throw away the key, and then make sure you don't reproduce. So when we take over your lands, not only are you out the way, but your progeny are out the way too. Okay. Now back into the article. All right, so Lebensraum declared that the Third Reich was inherently entitled to supplant and destroy other nations to advance German biological supremacy. This racist philosophy underpinned Germany's invasion, subjugation, and rape of much of Eastern Europe. However, students of Lebensraum know it was not a Hitlerian concept. Rather, it was coined in the last gasp of the 19th century by German geographer Friedrich Ratzel. In the second half of the 1800s, Germany suffered massive urban overcrowding due to its shift from an agrarian society to an industrialized nation. urban overcrowding. Oh, okay. Agrarian society to industrialization, right? Which means they went from agriculture to industry, right? As it changed, Germany found itself in the throes of the concatenant population boom and rampant poverty. Low-priced American grain only exacerbated Germany's economic woes. Germans in large numbers were sleeping on city streets. Okay, so they were poor, they had no money. The social upheaval ignited the so-called flight from the East. Boom. Every time something happens and they want to take flight, where do they fly? To anywhere we are, which is like asinine. So you go from, you're trying to escape being overcrowded, so you go somewhere else that's already populated. Oh, okay. In the 1850s, as Beethoven's Ninth played on for the secure classes, a million desperate Germans boarded steamers with their luggage and their memories, immigrating to American shores. Some 215,000 came in 1854 alone. That is almost a whole century before Hitler got to tripping. What? So you mean tell me, under the guise of immigration, the colonists came over here with a minimum of 215,000 in 1854? Okay. Things did not improve in Germany. In the 1880s, another 1.5 million Germans came to America. Okay, so now we're up to one and just under 2 mil, right? So we're just under 2 mil right now. Bringing their beer and their brats. Upon arrival to this country, they poured west into such centers as Milwaukee and St. Louis. It was an epic population influx for America that in large measure helped build the continental United States and the nation's social fabric. So they just told you that 2 million Germans brought their asses over here and overpopulated 2 states. 2 million people just hit the Midwest out of nowhere. But they were trying to get away from somewhere. Then why would y'all all settle in one fucking place? That can't be the reason. That's all I'm saying. But in the second right, rapid multi-million person population loss and the tearfully destitute conditions propelling the outflow were devastating to the German national identity. A concept arose, Volk ohne Raum, that is, I'm probably not even saying that right, a people without space. As yeah, we are the people without space because y'all always trying to commandeer something for yourselves. As the father of German geopolitics, Ratzel, with his post-Darwin notions of racial supremacy, insisted that colonizing land to create extra living spaces, what commercial is that, was the cure for Germany's urban overcrowding. So it was too many niggas there. So they said, let's go where all the niggas are in America. Yeah, that's still just okay. If that's the reason, all right. Let's see. In those turn of the 20th century days, a weakened Germany turned its focus from the Balkans to the Slavic realms to Africa. Indeed, Ratzel wrote that Africa was an ideal candidate for the push to achieve Lebensraum. What's Lebensraum? What were they trying? What's achieving that? What's that gonna do? Africa, with its wide open spaces and rugged romantic beauty, had long beckoned white Europe. It had been calling you? We were calling you? Africa was called. Okay. By the early 1880s, imperialists in England, Belgium, Portugal, France, and other countries were planning or had inaugurated colonies throughout the African continent. And that they did. And the likes of your Marcus Garvey and them helped them to do it. Those goddamn boule. Okay. By the early 1880s, imperialists in England, Belgium, Portugal, France, and other countries were planning to hand inaugurated colonies throughout the African continent. Many were incomprehensibly brutal and exploitative regimes. Kaiser Wilhelm feared Germany would be shut out of Africa and its natural resources, including gold. We are the gold. Don't ever let them tell you that it is just about the gold. I mean, the gold has a lot to do with it, right? Because wherever you find the gold, you find the golden people. Okay, geologically, we are tied to this land. You can go look at the same periodic table makeup of, the elements and the stones in the ground, and you share that same geological makeup, that same DNA, that same elements from the periodic table, right? So wherever these precious resources are, you are too, my babies. Okay. So the Second Reich enthusiastically joined the so-called Scramble for Africa. Beginning in November 1884, Germany convened the Berlin Conference of leading European powers to cooperatively carve up the African continent. Out of that international conclave came an agreement enacted in the name of God Almighty that would systemize an orderly territorial invasion by European powers, as well as river navigation, land use, and the other needed rules for the future occupation of the coast of the African continent. As part of the treaty, European governments also agreed to interdict and suppress the Arab slave trade, a lofty moralistic ideal with a double edge. Stemming Arab slave exports also kept able-bodied Africans on the land and available to labor in abject and cruel slave-like conditions on colonial plantations. So what they said was, we tired of these goddamn Arabs getting all the money with the free labor. They got access to all the golden people and all the gold. Y'all niggas gotta chill, okay? Y'all gotta chill. We need them slaves. So y'all can't do that shit no more because now we got to do it. We're here now, right? Now, what y'all don't know is that the Arabs and the Black Arabs, right, are clicked up with the Abrahamic religions, right? So your Jesus religion, your Moses religion, and your Abraham religion, right? Your Muhammad religion are all of the same sort, all of the same sect. Don't let them ever tell you different, honey, okay? So to say that they had to stop the Arab slave trade is just to put a different face on it because it is the same, okay? All right, so let me see. Beginning in 1884, Germany colonized 4 territories across the breadth of the continent, right? And they name the continents in Southwest Africa, now known as Namibia, right? And then they talk about South African German settlers were able to establish lucrative plantations, right? So they had slavery in Africa in the 1800s from the white colonizers, not just the Arabs, okay? Right? They were out there on the same bullshit that they were on in America. They were on in Africa at the same damn time. Right? Okay, so German banks and industrialists combined to provide needed economic support and investment. Berlin dispatched a small military and military contingent to protect white settlers as they confronted the lightly armed African natives, considered subhuman in Germany's twisted notion of racial hierarchy. We're subhuman, but everywhere we go, you want to be. Why you want to be where it's subpar? That doesn't sound like hierarchy. It doesn't sound like stuff people of hierarchy do, right? It sounds like people who are sub go seeking out the hierarchy, but whatever. I digress. Okay. So you have a picture of our lightly armed African natives, right? Natives. You heard what they called them, natives, right? Okay. Because they're Indians. They're indigenous, right? Just like you. Okay. The out of Africa theory is bullshit. I digress. Once entrenched, the German minority established a culture of pure labor enslavement. Tribeswomen, which tribe is also a derogatory term, but I digress. Tribeswomen were subjugated to incessant and often capricious rape, and not infrequently, their men were killed while attempting to defend them. Whites routinely stole the possessions of natives, such as cattle, and found ways to seize ancestral lands over trivialities, right? How do you seize ancestral lands? In the same way they did it here, honey, right? Fake ass treaties, pencil whipping, real whippings. Okay. Confiscation was often facilitated by predatory European lending practices enforced at gunpoint by the German military. So, quite similar to how China took their behinds over there to today's Africa. All right, China took their behinds over there and said, yo, y'all need infrastructure, Chinese deals, right? We're going to fund it. And when you renege on the loan, because you won't be able to pay it, we'll make sure of that. We get your land. We get your land. You forfeit it. We get it. Right? It's mine. It's ours now. Right? So same. History is cyclical. They've been pencil whipping everybody the same way. We'll give you money. We'll give you infrastructure. You take this from us so we can take it from you. But you agreed to it, so you did it to yourself. Right? That is what they will always tell you. So fast forward 50 years in 1903, on the verge of utter dispossession, right? Which means you have been dispossessed from your lands, which means you have been removed, exterminated from your lands, right? Exiled from your lands. Nama warriors revolted against 2,500 strong white community. Why when they refer to them, they got to be strong white? And okay. And how are you a community? What is the communing in? The drinking of my blood? Okay. Later hero fighters join. Scores of German settlers were massacred. A sequence of surprise attacks, right? Okay. 1904, Berlin dispatched 40,000 soldiers to suppress the uprising. Lieutenant General Lothar von Trotha, supreme commander of German Southwest Africa, had learned from other European battles in Africa, such as Britain's costly Boer War. Now, there are two sets of Boers. You got the white Boers and you got the black Boers. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They always naming themselves after us and whitewashing history. So, you follow one path, you go one way, you follow another path, you get a different story. I don't know. Trotha was determined to quickly and completely exterminate the African natives, leaving the land free for fulfillment of the dream of Lebensraum. I still need to know what Lebensraum is, right? But exterminate the African natives, leaving the land free. Okay, boom. So I'm gonna finish it up to here, and then we're gonna kick it over here to the next one, because that sentence. Okay. So anyway, armed with modern cannon and Gatling guns, Trotha's troops surrounded the Africans on three sides. When Trotha wrote on October 2nd, 1904, "It is my intention to destroy the rebellious tribes with streams of blood and money." His men used German word Vernichtung. Vernichtung means extermination. Okay, so Vernichtung. Okay, like Varmin. Okay. Yeah, so we finna exterminate them niggas. Streams of blood and money. So your DNA in the gold. After disseminating the outclassed fighters, Trotha decided to annihilate the civilians as well. Everybody got to fucking go. Not just... Everybody got to go. What? Everybody got to go. His proclamation to the hereros, right? And that is a tribe. That's the name of the tribe, right? I'm just calling them the heroes. And the colonists was an open pledge of extermination, unmistakable to all. I, the great general of the German soldiers, send this letter to the heroes. are German subjects no longer. The hero nation must now leave the country. Oh, okay. So it's not, we won't even let you stay as citizens. Y'all just got to get the hell on. We don't want to govern you. We don't want no parts of you. You just got to get on. Okay. Leave the country. If it refuses, I shall compel it to do so with the long tube. Any Herero found inside the German frontier, with or without a gun or cattle, will be executed. I shall spare neither woman nor child. I shall give the order to drive them away and fire on them. Such are my words to the Herero people. Understandably, Trolla's command became known in official circles as a Vernichtung Vernichtenbefehl. I don't know. My German is beyond rusty, is non-existent. So all I can say is Guten Tag. There you go. And that's from when I was in Germany. That's the only word they taught us. That is in extermination order. So he gave the order. Exterminate them niggas. Okay. Nearly surrounded more than 3,000 heroes. So a full three. Okay. So if it's because tribes are broken into a people, right? So you and your family are at the family cookout, and here come this nigga and his people talking about we finna lay all y'all down right now. I'm talking about like just like the whole tribe though. Like it's a hell of a family reunion, ain't it? The heroes were cut down. They were cut down. Bullets and cannons were not only the beginning. German guy Jan Clotti, Bomberclot, I don't know, whatever his name is. I was present when the Hero were defeated in a battle in the vicinity of Waterberg. After the battle, all men, women, and children who fell into German hands, wounded or otherwise, were mercilessly put to death. Then the Germans set off in pursuit of the rest, and all those found by the wayside were shot down and bayoneted to death. The mass of the hero men was unarmed and thus unable to offer resistance. They were just trying to get away with their cattle. We were like live and let live. Like y'all niggas want to be here, fine. Y'all could be here. It's more than enough land for everybody, right? I'm gonna just take my shit. I'm gonna go over here. We gonna set up in Tulsa. They were like, what? No. If we can't have you, you won't even have yourselves. No, ain't no just leaving. Ain't no just getting on. Ain't no live and letting live. Okay. To avoid staining the honor of the German soldiers, Van Trotha instructed his troops to fire over the heads of the women, children, and weakened men, driving them east into the scorching, dry Omohiki section of the Kalahari Desert. In anticipation of their flight, troops poisoned the wells or surrounded them with deadly forces. Starved of food or water, the desperate and weakened hero wandered from watering hole to watering hole. Sojourner truth, ain't it? They wandered. And wandered. Who else wandered? Who else? Every biblical story, if I'm not mistaken, and when I say biblical story, I'm talking about the biblical books, right? Don't all these religions have a story of a wandering people forced out of somewhere? Okay. Thousands in family groups gradually fell dead, their rib cages bulging to the limits of their gaunt and emaciated skins. Many who did not die quickly enough were seized, still whimpering. Doesn't that give you like can't you just visualize those starving children commercials, right? Like send 20 cents, it's gonna save a child. Like, but why do they look like that though? You know what I'm saying? Like they just described those damn children. So are those children really on camps? Is this stuff still going on? Are y'all using charity as a way to fund this stuff still? Is philanthropy really philanthropy? Oh no, I digress, whatever, because the children should not look like that, right? They should not look as described here. Okay. Okay. Man, don't they look like the thuggies? Look at what's on their head. Okay. So you have the tribe here. That better not be a black soldier. That better not be a black soldier. They better have put these people in this garb for these damn pictures as propaganda. They better not have been with them niggas. I'm just saying. Okay. So now that we know, they went over to America tripping. I mean, not America. They went over to Africa tripping, right? They enacted the Holocaust over there, damn near 100 years prior to any white Jews claiming to have been a part of it in Europe. One of these camps was a notorious Shark Island concentration camp. For all intents and purposes, Shark Island was considered an extermination by labor camp, where Nama and Hero civilians, including women and children, were knowingly and methodically worked to death. Look at your auntie, honey. Look at what is all of, what? Okay, so if I was to restore this photo, that would be a horrific sight. That would be a horrific sight. So they just took him and worked him to death and watched him do it. You know what I'm saying? It was shits and giggles. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you have 80 to 90,000 right there, 50,000 there, 15,000 there, 130,000, 140,000. The native population, right? They're just taking their asses out. Right. All of the tribal groups were taken out. Right. So, you know, they love to tell y'all that y'all left out of the continent to come to America to slavery. That's not what the fuck happened. Right? Niggas was in slavery on the continent. Okay? This is your continent. Right? And it happened in both fucking places. Okay? The Treaty of Versailles. I don't even want to get into Versailles. I don't even want to get into King Louis. Okay? And how we get Louisiana and all that. Because let me tell you, they went around colonizing long before the Germans did. Right? Louis teamed up, and here you see they mentioned the Pope, right? Louis teamed up with the Catholics, and they backed it, and they funded Louis's war on everybody. Right? So racial superiority would be poisoned by Negro blood, the black horror on the Rhine. Okay, so let's get into the American side of this, right? The advent of American and international eugenics, a pseudoscience born on Long Island that found intellectual partnership with German racists of the day. Eugenics was an early 20th century American crusade to create a white, blonde, blue-eyed. Eugenics was an early 20th century American crusade. To create white, blonde, blue-eyed, Germanic utopian society, because the Germans are already there, honey. 2 million of them came. 2 million of them came 100 years prior to that, and we're tripping, right? Germanic utopian society that would rise following the systematic elimination of all people of color or unwanted mixed ancestry. Unwanted mixed ancestry? A famous founding document of the American movement was a 1912 German study, The Bastards of Rehoboth, and the problem of miscegenation. Miscegenation in Man, which claimed to document the corrupted moral and biological nature of black-white offspring. I wonder what is corruptible about that mixed offspring. The author was German biologist and race scientist Eugene Fischer. He was stationed in colonial Southwest Africa, where he studied the local Dutch African families cited in the work. Okay, so Dutch African meaning the Germans went over there, got to forcing natives to have their babies, and then ran a bunch of studies on them to see why they were corrupt and blamed it on the native blood. From studies, it is the audacity. From studies such as Fisher's sprang the fraudulent science of American eugenics that medicalized racial theory. They medicalized racial theory, propelled by abundant financing from the Carnegie Institution. Y'all love y'all some Dale Carnegie, don't you? What with a book based on Young Think and Grow Rich? Y'all love y'all some Dale Carnegie, don't y'all? You go to Atlanta, they got all kinds of stuff up for in honor of this man, okay? Harriman Railroad Fortune, right? Kendrick told y'all about the railroadmen. And Rockefeller Foundation. Eugenics ultimately led to the sterilization of some 60,000 Americans under laws in 27 states, as well as racial and ethnic incarceration, right? So what it is saying is that under the guise of medical racial theory and racial and ethnic incarceration in 27 different states, they took your black asses, locked y'all up in all kinds of institutions. Let's click over to this one. Locked y'all up in all kinds of institutions in California, where they perfected the program that the Nazis subsequently ended up using, right? 1909. In 1909, it was already a famous movement. It was already an act, the A-Sexualization Act, right? The law that shaped LA, Los Angeles, jurisdiction, California, right? Where they perfected the Nazi program, where's my picture? Where they perfected this diagram. And this diagram became the flag for the Nazis, right? Where they got their Henrietta Lack on, you know what I'm saying? Where they'll take you and dive into all your DNA, right? And then label you unfit while they run around and create COVID vaccines and whatnot. Okay. It is sibling follow-up acts. So they're basically saying in 1909 and then they have further acts from 1913 to 1917. They have the same acts. They just keep renaming them, right? And changing the wording so that it's covert. You don't know what the hell it is, right? For all I know, Obamacare is the A-Sexualization Act. Okay? The act and its subsequent thumbs up from the judicial branch, and we're talking to Oliver Wendell Holmes, who gave the go-ahead for California to sterilize more than 20,000 men and women against their will. They did way more than that. These decisions were made or backed by a board at one point, was aptly named the State Commission on Lunacy. Officially, the majority of the people were sterilized, were diagnosed as being mentally ill or mentally deficient or possessing a feeble-mindedness. Unofficially, African Americans and people of Mexican origin underwent forced sterilizations to a degree greater than each group's per capita population would suggest. When broken down further, it appears that the reasons these Californians had the possibility of reproduction or further reproduction stolen from them ranged from essentially being deemed too poor or too drunk or too promiscuous. Y'all ain't got no money. Y'all drink. Y'all got all these damn kids. To even being the child of someone who was deemed poor, drunk, or promiscuous. Oh, okay. So because like my people were considered poor, or they probably weren't even poor, they just were living outside of societal norms, right? On their farm, doing them, right? And you label them poor, right? So because they are not civilized, you come from a clan that is not civilized, you gotta go, right? Okay. And you can see that William Deverell, who helped enact the A-Sexualization Act, right, was a professor at USC and the director of Huntington USC, which is the Institute of California in the West. Okay, and we know USC. We know USC is like, it's like one of the biggest schools in California. Like, and it's right in the damn hood, like literally right across the street. Like, if I go onto USC campus and step in front of it, there's the hood. There's a skate park, and there's the hood. Why would they put USC in the hood? And then that would be the place where one of the founding fathers of the A-Sexualization Act sat his ass at. That's a great place, right? Location. We can study a black asses from our window. Okay. All right. So you got Deverell. Cites research by the scholars Alexandra Mina Stern and Marcelava Chavez Garcia. Cesar Chavez. Hey, shout out to my guy. If you are in California, or you ever been in California, Cesar Chavez, you know what I'm saying? He's a guy. I don't even know if that's, I don't know if these same people, but I know that name. Chavez. Right. Okay. Showing that from 1909, 1979, when California finally and formally banned the practice, the more than 20,000 people were victimized via procedures such as vasectomies and hysterectomies. The vast majority occurred prior to 1950. So the war with Hitler didn't kick off until 1940 something, right? The day of my birthday, as a matter of fact, is when the nigga got to tripping, right? But it didn't kick off until late 1940s, right? The vast majority of this stuff happened, according to them, prior to 1950. So it couldn't have been Hitler that put it together, right? The Holocaust started way before white Jews wanted to claim the Holocaust as something that happened to them. Their migration to America came long before they were persecuted. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they were the, you know what, never mind. If they were the chosen, then why were they not first, but they were last? Let them tell it. If the story happened the way they said it happened. Okay. So let's go through a little bit more. Stern's research also provides an ethnic breakdown linked to a few paragraphs above. California wasn't the only state to sterilize. 30 or so others did as well, right? They were already around here on eugenics, right? Call it slavery, right? Well, what they call plantations. The plantations were Nazi camps. Okay. And mind you, I did say that, niggas took part of this. The Boule took part in this. Niggas had slaves too, right? You had white slaves too, right? Here already. Okay. Los Angeles was at the center of it in California. California was at the center of it in the United States. The professor is speaking here on both the progressive movement in general, which is usually known for its political, regulatory, public health, educational, workplace, and ecological reforms, as well as what Deverell argues is the related forced sterilization movement. You can clean up the water. You can clean up the people who are utilizing the water. Social hygiene. Pseudoscience. The progressive era. Isn't California always talking about their progressives? The Democrats and the liberals are progressives. I don't give a fuck about the Republicans either. Okay. I don't care about the Tea Party, nobody, right? Same thing. But aren't they always talking about progressive? We got to be progressive. Okay. Aggressive. There are pros at being aggressive. Okay, so energetic humanitarian period, having to do with cleaning up city water, cleaning up disease, perfecting the nation in light of the new 20th century, reaching down to the downtrodden, reaching down to the immigrant, and reaching down to the working class, the poor, the drunk, and the promiscuous. Deverell also notes that there were twin familiar watchwords for the progressive era: good and clean. They go right together. He says of the watchwords: clean government, good government; clean streets, clean water. I wonder how many times throughout the campaigning has Kamala or Trump used these progressive watchwords. Bad people. American South? Bad people. American South. Good people lived in the North. And they went to war to free the slaves. No, they did not. They went to war to get taxes for the slaves. They went to war to get taxes. And they went to war so that y'all would stop putting white people in slavery. It had nothing to do with niggas. It had nothing to do with nobody being free. In 1909, the A-Sexualization Act unanimously passed both houses of the California legislature. They approved eugenics in the Supreme Court, in Congress, and in the big house. Information about California's program made its way indirectly via an East Coast eugenics advocate to Nazi Germany. You talking about the East Coast where them good folks lived? Them good folks who wanted to free the slaves. Them good folks from the North are the ones who gave all the good game to the good Nazis? And they would go on to sterilize 2 million people among their catalog of unimaginable horrors. Okay, I'm tired of reading, y'all. And the sacrificial succulent, a relatively short walk away, Deborah asked himself and all of us a question about the A-Sexualization Act. Have we learned from this? Deverell says. Then he answered his own damn question. Yes, we know this was horrendous. The counterfactual question is: remove the horrors from Nazi Germany from the table for a second. Do we learn the lesson if that is not there? Okay. Deverell's answer: I don't know. Okay. Jeremy Rosenberg. Okay. I mean, we can. This is getting long. I didn't plan to be on here this long for part 2, but I don't even know who's here watching because I can't even see myself. The Huntington Library, art collections, and botanical gardens. Okay. So anyway, right? Because you are the sacrificial specimen. Okay. I don't need to read the sacrificial succulent to know that me, Jasmine, fields, the jasmine's in the fields, right? The jasmine in the garden. I don't need to read this to know that we are the sacrificial succulents. Okay. And right. So back to my pictures. back to my pictures. So here you have the diagram, right, which is an ode from whence it all started, right? The near bloodkin of a feeble-minded woman sterilized by the state of California, right? So when people get on my page talking about schizogram and what have you, this is the narrative that y'all are pushing. This is the narrative y'all are pushing. This is the narrative y'all are pushing. Okay? You have to watch what you say and watch what you perpetuate. Okay? Every time you tell them people, every time you tell me, every time you say, that I'm schizophrenic, you're telling the people to come get me. Right? When really, what they're saying, because let me tell you, schizophrenia, what that stems from is native bloodline. Right? Those are shamans, the shamanic bloodline, people who use all three parts of their brain and render the world through a lens that is unaffected by the frequencies that they put out to block you from using all parts of your brain to render the world around you. Right? Those people used to be revered. Those people used to be your celebrities, right? And we have pushed them into the shadows because other people couldn't handle it. And then here y'all come, aiding the eugenics of the Ark of the Covenant. The original people, the natives, right? Y'all did that. Y'all are helping to bleach yourselves out every time you do that. Because they didn't take nobody but you and do it with it. And they developed it and perfected it here, right? Not somewhere else. So, okay, I'm done. We talk later, guys, okay?